Two British sci-fi nerds, a foul-mouthed alien, and a road trip across America that gets weirder by the mile. Did this movie deserve better, or does it just suck? Welcome back to Does It Suck, the show on the Snobs channel where we watch, review, and dig into movies that time forgot, that bombed at the box office, that are underrated, or you're just not sure whether or not to defend at a dinner party. I'm Mick Manhattan. Today we are talking about a movie that made nearly $100 million and somehow still feels forgotten. This is the movie Paul. Before we get into it, I want to give a genuine thank you to our Patreon member, Bronson Wright-Wolfe, for requesting this one for review. So what is this movie? Paul was released in February 2011 in the UK and March 2011 in the United States. Directed by Greg Mottola and written by its two stars, Simon Pegg and Pegg-Frost. It was produced by Working Title Films and distributed by Universal Pictures, with a budget around $40 million. Pegg and Frost play Graham and Clive, two British science fiction nerds on a dream road trip across the American Southwest, hitting every UFO-themed tourist trap on the map after attending San Diego Comic-Con. Then, in the Nevada desert, they literally run into an actual alien. That alien is named Paul, voiced by Seth Rogen, and he has been living at a secret government facility for 60 years, helping shape American science fiction and pop culture from behind the scenes. When Paul decides he wants to go home, Graham and Clive end up smuggling him across country in their rented RV with federal agents in pursuit. The supporting cast is genuinely loaded. Jason Bateman as the federal agent chasing him, Kristen Wiig as a sheltered creationist who joins the trip, Bill Hader and Joe Latruglio as bumbling agents, and Sigourney Weaver, yes, the Sigourney Weaver from Alien, running the secret government operation. That's a nice touch. This is a film stuffed with affection references to the entire era of Spielberg and Lucas style science fiction, minus the Crystal Skull. The behind-the-scenes story of Paul actually starts almost a decade before the film was made, and it explains why this movie feels so personal to Pegg and Frost. Simon Pegg and Pegg-Frost came up with the concept for Paul while waiting out a rainstorm on the set of Shaun of the Dead, all the way back in 2004. They handed their producer a sketch of an alien wearing an FBI t-shirt and flipping off the viewer with a caption joking that in America, everybody is an alien. That actual original drawing appears in the film's closing credits. This movie was years in the making before a single frame was shot. Designing Paul himself was a real challenge. Simon Pegg was adamant that the character looked like a classic Spielberg or Close Encounters style gray alien, and he gave the visual effects team at Double Negative a very specific construction. Do not let this become Jar Jar Binks. They wanted Paul to feel grounded and real, not cartoonish. They actually tested Bill Hader's voice for the role first before ultimately deciding to cast Seth Rogen instead. And then there is the Spielberg connection. Pegg and Frost made this film as an open love letter to Close Encounters of the Third Kind and E.T. When Spielberg heard about this project, he happily agreed to record a voice cameo as himself in the flashback sequence. A scene that imagines Paul casually feeding Spielberg the idea for E.T.'s healing touch power decades earlier. It is one of the most genuinely delightful cameos in any comedy of that era. When Paul opened in 2011, critical reception landed in the mid to high 60% range on Rotten Tomatoes, solidly mixed to positive. Critics generally praised the comedic chemistry between Pegg and Frost and the sheer density of the sci-fi references, but a common complaint was that the film loses momentum in its back half, shifting from a clever comedy into a more conventional chase movie with screeching tires and shootouts. At the box office, Paul actually performed well, roughly $98 million worldwide on a $40 million budget, a genuine commercial success even if it never became the cultural phenomenon some expected from this particular cast and crew. Fan reception has always been warm, but a little quiet. People who love Pegg and Frost's Cornetto trilogy with director Edgar Wright, which includes Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End, tend to mention Paul as almost an afterthought, even though it shares the same comedic DNA and a lot of the same affection of genre filmmaking. It has never quite gotten the same cult devotion as the other work. The legacy of Paul is an interesting one. It sits in this strange middle ground, too well known to be a forgotten gem, but too overlooked to be remembered as one of Pegg and Frost's defining films. It streams quietly on various platforms, and people who rediscover it tend to be pleasantly surprised by how dense the references are and how much genuine affection for science fiction history is baked into every scene. This was also notably the first film Pegg and Frost wrote together without director Edgar Wright, working instead with American director Greg Mottola, who had just come off Superbad and Adventureland. That makes Paul a bit of an outlier in their filmography, a transatlantic hybrid that never quite gets grouped with their other collaborations, even though the comedic sensibility is unmistakably theirs. Okay, my final verdict. Here's where I land on Paul. It doesn't suck, by any means. This is a genuinely funny and genuinely affectionate comedy that gets unfairly overlooked because it sits in the shadow of a better remembered Pegg-Frost project. The chemistry between the two leads is exactly what you would expect. Seth Rogen's voice work as Paul is funnier than it has any right to be, and the sheer volume of loving science fiction references and the Spielberg cameo gives this film a genuine warmth underneath the crude humor. The back half is a bit weaker than the front half once it shifts into a more conventional chase movie. That's true, but this is a minor complaint in a film that is likable. This is comfort food for anyone who grew up loving Close Encounters, E.T., and was made by two guys who clearly grew up loving them too. In my opinion, it does not suck. It's a good movie, it's fun, and I think you'll really enjoy it. It is criminally underrated in my opinion, and that's my verdict. It's underrated, affectionate, and genuinely funny. And drop your take in the comments because I'd love to hear what you guys thought of it too. I love when you share the impacts that these movies leave on you, especially the classic films, and the new films as well. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a Does It Suck. We have way more on the channel as well, and we'd love for you to be a part of the Stomp Nation. And it truly helps us when you do subscribe to the channel because it builds us in the algorithm, and we're able to reach out to other film lovers just like you guys. Thanks again to Bronson Wright-Wolfe for supplying this one for review. He's one of our best Patreon members, and we truly appreciate him. If you want to become a Patreon member as well, we have a free tier where you can get our updates, but we also have paid tiers with perks available like picking movies for review and other things as well. Go check them out and join up. Remember to follow us at The Scene Snobs all over social media and over on Letterboxd and Substack where we do written reviews of these movies as well. Until next time, everybody, I'm Mick Manhattan from The Scene Snobs. Thank you for joining in, and take care of yourselves. That's important. Be kind, rewind, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Just wrapping up my podcast.